before we start this story time, I just want to make it super clear that people with schizophrenia aren't innately scary or do bad things or should be feared. This just happens to be a story about my neighbor who has schizophrenia, who doesn't take medication and isn't getting the proper help. So he does questionable things and has essentially harassed my family and my other neighbors. So yeah, I just want to make it really clear that that's not the case with every schizophrenic person. We have a family friend whose son also has schizophrenia, but he takes his medication and he's doing really, really well. So I just want to make that super clear. Okay, yeah. Also, there is a part of the story that deals with more adult themes. So if you are under the age of like 16, I'm talking about you, Cousin McKenna. I love you, but maybe you shouldn't watch this video because it is a little bit not good. It's a little bit icky. So yeah, there we go. All the disclaimers out of the way. It all started about a year ago, I want to say. I believe it was last summer. There's my house, and then right next to our house is another house, and a family lives there. But then there's a back house that has a second-story unit and like garages underneath. And the family I'm talking about lives in that back unit. And actually, that back unit, their front door, literally can look right straight down into our backyard. I'll insert a clip now. Okay, here's our sliding glass door. So if we go outside, the door is right there. But luckily we've put like things to block that they can see, so they can't see in. So that's the family I'm talking about. There's a woman, a man, and they have 3 kids. A older son, a middle daughter, and a younger son. The older son has schizophrenia. So growing up, he'd always like ride a skateboard and he was fine, and the last couple of years have been a little different. So last year in the summer, I was just at home and I heard a knock at the door, and I was home alone. So usually if I'm home alone and there's a knock at the door, I don't answer it. I just don't want to open the door to any creepers, so I just choose not to open it. So heard a knock, didn't answer it, and hopped in the shower. I think they knocked twice actually. Hopped in the shower, took a shower, got out of the shower, and then they were still knocking. So I don't know if they left and came back or if the entire time I was in the shower they kept knocking. But got out of the shower, I started getting ready, and I heard a knock again. So, and then it turned into like knock knock, knock knock, knock knock, like, and I happened to be on the phone with my now boyfriend James. So I was on the phone with James like, hey, there's a weird knock at the door. I'm gonna answer it, but stay on the phone with me. So I answer it and I'm like on the phone, so clearly like the person who is knocking knows I'm on the phone and knows there's a person on the other line. So I'm so paranoid, but for good reason apparently. Don't know why I'm still talking on the phone. So I answered the door and I said, hold on. Yes. And it is, let's call him Jackson. So that makes me think of Gilmore Girls, Suki's husband Jackson. Sorry Jackson. But yeah, let's call him Jackson. So it's Jackson, and he's like holding a pill bottle and he's like, wanna buy some? And I'm like, what? He's like, wanna buy some drugs? And I said, no thank you. And I closed the door. And then so he left. So I'm still on the phone. I'm like, I'm pretty sure my neighbor just tried to sell me drugs. Like, what? So then a little time passes and he knocks again. And this time, like, I'm so over it. My heart is pounding. I'm uncomfortable. So I put on the little latch that you can open it, but it's still like locked. Does that make sense? Like, so I'm looking at him through that little space that the door can open, and I said, yes. It was the weirdest thing. He was clearly out of it. I don't know if he was high. I'm assuming he was high. But he was making words that I could understand as words. He wasn't mumbling gibberish. He was making words, but aligning them in a situation that was not a sentence. He was making words but making no sense. So he said something like, under the state of law, you were in the situation with narcotics and phone number so you can tell him, and he was just like making no sense. So I told him that he was making me uncomfortable and he needs to leave, like get off my property. And I closed the door. I text my mom or my dad, I can't remember. I text someone and say, I'm pretty sure our neighbor just tried to sell me drugs. He came over twice. I told him to leave, but that's the situation. So they kind of freaked out. They were like, we're gonna call the cops, like, where is he, da-da-da. I said, you know what, he's not coming back, so I'm safe, I'm good. So that ended, and around that time, he would just, like, he would be riding his skateboard, and then my mom would, you know, be unloading groceries from the car, and he would just stare at her. And sometimes he'd stare at her and smile, like, just creepy stuff. Or from their stairs that leads up to their front door, because it's a back house and it's the second story, you can directly see my driveway. So sometimes he'd just sit at the steps and watch. And so if I'd like get in my car to leave from the driveway, he'd just watch me leave. It's so uncomfortable and so creepy. So that was kind of the extent of the activity up until the time he knocked at the door and there was some actual interaction. But then about, I don't even know, maybe a month later, I'm at work and either one of my parents texted me and said, let us know when you get home, just like text us when you get home, we'll come out and get you. So they were telling me that when I got home to text them that I was there so that they could come out and walk me to the front door from my driveway. And this is clearly the turning point in the sort of activity that was going on. And this is where it gets a little inappropriate, so bear that in mind. But I get home, I text them, they come out, they bring me inside, and I ask, like, oh, what happened? So I guess my mom was, I don't know if she was, I think she was taking out the trash. So she was taking out the trash, and she saw that Jackson was out in front of their front house. So the yard that's next to ours. He was there. She just like glanced at him and something was like, she noticed something. So she looks again. Keep in mind, this is the front yard. So open, out in the open. His pants are lowered. And then he begins to touch himself. Out in public, in front of my mom. So, my mom honestly doesn't know what to do. She's just like, what? And luckily, right when he started doing that, my dad pulled into the driveway and got home. So she like tells him what's going on and they go inside. After what happened with him knocking at the door and trying to sell me drugs, my mom talked to his mom and his mom gave me and my family her number and his sister's number. So if anything happened, we could contact them. But for some reason after this event, my parents did not contact anyone. I think they maybe just didn't want to start anything, or I have no idea. But I kept pushing my parents to do something. I kept pushing my mom to do something because that's next level. Especially, this will be a common theme, but we live like a block away from a school. So there are school children. I see that, like, I see kids walking to school, you know, when I, like, so that happened, and I don't think we contact anyone or anything. So then, like, a week later, I want to say, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month. I don't know. I'm bad at time, remembering time. So I'm at work, and I get a text from my mom asking what his mom's number is. And at this point, like, I haven't put it into my phone yet, so I don't have it. But I call her and ask what's going on because I know that something happened again. And so essentially, she was working in the backyard or something, and we have a wall that separates their property and our property. It's a cinder block wall that probably is like my height, maybe a foot above my height. So I want to say like 6 feet, let's say. A 6 foot cinder block wall that separates our properties. So, and also up until this point, sorry, I keep going back and forth, but we had a few instances where our sliding glass door that enters the back of the house would be opened in the middle of the night because, I don't know, we just don't lock it or something. So we had always suspected that it was Jackson. And just things in the backyard would move. Like, our lounge cushions would be taken from the lounge chairs and put in the middle of our yard. So we always suspected it was Jackson. So my mom was working in the backyard, and she went in the house and left the door unlocked, from the sliding glass door unlocked. And she goes in the main house or something, and then she comes back into the sunroom, and there is Jackson inside our house, butt-ass naked, just standing there, like, everything out in the open. Here I am. My mom screams, "Get the out of my house." And he kind of just shrugs, like he's doing nothing wrong. He's like, and then he just leaves, and he hops over that freaking cinder block like a Spider-Man, like climbs over and leaves. And she calls the police. She calls everyone. She calls the police, and after 30 minutes, they don't show up. So she calls them back and is like, "Hey, don't even worry about it. Like, the mom got home, whatever." So that kind of shows you that the police aren't on our side. And then, like, a week later, I hear a knock at the door, and it's his mom, actually. And she asks me something else, something like about the yard or something. And then she says, "Oh, I heard about, what Jackson did, and he doesn't mean harm. Like, he's harmless. He won't hurt you. I asked him, and he just wanted to swim in your pool." We have a pool. He did not go anywhere near the pool. He went beeline straight from hopping the cinder block fence like a frickin' Spider-Man, and went straight into the house. So, I'm sorry. Didn't seem like he just wanted to go for a friendly swim, butt naked. And also, last time I checked, trespassing and public nudity weren't harmless behaviors. So that shows you that the parents are not on our side. And she mentioned that, like, he doesn't take his medication because they don't make him feel good. So they just let him do him. After that, honestly, it's just, I've seen him a few times. He'll, like, lower his pants a little bit, not to show the entire thing, but you can see the start of things. And he just hangs around and is creepy. And there was one time where he was doing that. He had his pants kind of lowered in the front yard, and my mom called his mom, like, "Hey, school is starting. There are kids walking. You better get your son inside," or something, whatever. And the mom's like, "Oh, I know, I understand. Like, I'll come over, blah, blah." But since no one is really on our side, except our neighbors. Like, we'll tell our other neighbors, like, "Hey, watch out for this kid." And my next door neighbor, who is the front house, the father came over and said, "Hey, like, give your daughter my number, so if anything happens, she can call me," and stuff. So we've kind of had this, like, alliance between all of our neighbors against, like, watching out for each other and stuff. But it's gotten to a point where, like, no one is on our side. The parents aren't on our side. So my mom kind of just acts like his mom. So if he comes out, I think one time he came out naked, and she said, "Jackson, go back inside and put on clothes. It's not right to be out without any clothes on. And he like turned around and went back inside and put on clothes. Like, my mom acts like his mom now. So that's how we've kind of been handling the situation. But because he can't really get a rise out of us anymore, I didn't know about this. My mom told me the other day, but he apparently went across the street and hopped into our neighbor's yard when the mom was out watering the garden, and so she like went inside and started crying, and we're really close with that family, and just was pretty distraught about it. So I guess he's moving on to harassing our other neighbors, but there's no conclusion to this story. So we don't know what to do, really. That's kind of how we've been handling it. We put up a bigger barrier on the cinder block wall, so now it's harder for him to get into our yard. And then this is where he jumped over, but we put in a lattice, so it's harder. I'm sure, honestly, if he really wanted to, he could still get into the yard, but it's just a kind of sucky situation. But also I feel bad for Jackson himself, because the parents have told us that, you know, he deals with this problem, so he can't drive, he doesn't go to school, he doesn't work, he just stays at the house literally all day. And that's no life for a young man, you know what I mean? He's 23, I want to say. That's no life for, you know, a young person, any person. That's just no life for someone. So it's just a really unfortunate situation that they haven't given him the help that he needs, because if one medication doesn't work, try another, you know? I don't know. I don't know what the best situation is or how to handle it, but that's the story of my schizophrenic neighbor showing up naked in our house and the other events that happened around that. So I wish it was clickbait, but it is not. But yeah, this is just kind of a sucky situation, but YouTube is all about turning a sucky situation into a video so that you can capitalize on it, so that's just what I'm doing. But yeah, that is the end of my story. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye, guys.